Welcome to the Hourly Podcast. In today's episode, Charlie Eblen, owner and founder of Single Tree BBQ, shares his journey from being an hourly worker to owning a restaurant and the importance of building a team and culture. Charlie also discusses the challenges of scaling businesses and the importance of continuous improvement. He shares his North Star, which is to become the Nike of barbecue, and his focus on delivering undeniable hospitality in the perfect plate of barbecue. Charlie's story is inspiring and highlights the importance of perseverance and self-improvement. Enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by JoJo, an AI virtual recruiter powered by Sprockets. Designed for the hourly workforce, JoJo works 24/7 to source, screen, and schedule interviews with the best applicants for your business. JoJo helps reduce employee turnover and time spent hiring so you and your team can focus on other important tasks. To learn more, head to sprockets.ai/JoJo.
But other things, I'm glad we were able to connect. I know, you're very busy between operating your own restaurant, as well as being very active into LinkedIn and helping others build their business community. Tell me a little bit about you and tell our listeners, if they've never seen your name before, who is Charlie? What do you love and what are you passionate about?
Man, I've been in the restaurant business most of my life. I spent 5 years in the Army, but outside of that, I've been in and around restaurant work. Whether it was washing dishes or running companies, it's always been something along those lines. I think when I was 14 years old, I kind of got thrown into it one day, and it just became a passion of mine. I've always worked for somebody else. I never thought that I'd be able to own my own brand, try to build something myself. But in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I got let go from my job as a vice president of a restaurant company, and kind of sat in my office and sulked for a little while, and figured out that wasn't going to cut it, and I needed to figure something out. Nobody was hiring. What am I going to do? So my wife came in and said, "Hey, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop depending on everybody else. Let's start our own brand, start our own company, and get going." So, next thing I know, we got a smoker in the backyard, and we're selling turkeys for Thanksgiving in 2020, right? So we got to do something to pay the mortgage. So that's what we did. We just started grinding away. We've taken the brand from a small little catering company out of my backyard to a food truck, concession stands. Now we have a brick and mortar, a podcast. I'm on the Toast Customer Advisory Board. I'm also a board member of a nonprofit here in town called Minutes Wisely. We help in the prevention of veteran suicide. So, we do a little bit of everything. Days are long, nights are short, and we do everything we can to help build and grow community and make a lasting impression and impact in other people's lives.
Yeah.
So
amazing story. I mean, and congrats on all that success. I mean, I know from building Sprockets and being part of the growth of our own podcast, how difficult that can be. So really, congratulations.
Yeah, it's fun.
Talk to me about a little bit, because the podcast is about hiring and building a team and building a culture. And what's interesting about your story is not that it happened overnight, but you went from being a worker to an owner. And I'm assuming that a big part of that was building a team around you and some successes you had there, and what our audience might enjoy listening to, some failures of maybe early hires you made or different things that you did as it relates to people as you were scaling your business kind of as that first-time business owner. Walk us through kind of any of those stories or your journey towards hiring and building an awesome culture, what you have now.
Yeah, I can tell you that one of the biggest mistakes I think we made in the early days was not hiring people. Just trying to gut through it and make it happen. And when it's a 144 square foot of a food truck, and that's all you got, you can kind of muscle through those things, right? You can make things happen that you can't do in a brick and mortar. When you get into, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 square feet, you can't do it all yourself.
Mm.
When you start growing the brand and you start having, a retail segment, which is another revenue stream that somebody's got to manage. You got your restaurant side that you got to manage. Now you start breaking out into concession stands. Oh, well, now you got another unit. So you got to figure out how to get all of that stuff done. So, even though I've been in corporate restaurant for, 30 years, you can't do it all yourself. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, how how good you are. You have to have people. So once we got the brick and mortar open was when I really started depending on folks to help us grow, help us continue to deliver on the mission of delivering the perfect plate of barbecue and undeniable hospitality. So, that's kind of the way we went. I didn't start this brand to not make a lasting impact in our community. So if I'm interviewing you for a position, then I care less if you know how to cook barbecue, because that's not the mission. I can teach anybody how to follow a recipe. I can't teach you how to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and thank you, and my pleasure. And that just has to be ingrained in who you are, right? You can coach people, right? You can get people that are super nice and have undeniable hospitality, but aren't using the words you want them to use. Sure, you can coach that, but you just can't coach politeness. So we looked and sat down and interviewed folks that, they were just nice people. They just, they were people you wanted to talk to. They were people that you wanted to help and that wanted to help others. So, the first, the employee of the year that we had for 2023 last year has never had a job before, let alone worked in the restaurant business. And she was the best line cook I had. She was the cleanest. She was the fastest worker. She worked harder than everybody else. She was never late. She was always in uniform. She always wanted to help people. When she was caught up in the kitchen, she would come out and help people in the dining room, bus tables, and refill drinks. She was amazing. She is amazing. She's getting ready to have a baby, but she's not here now. But she's an amazing team member, an amazing part of our team. And it had nothing to do with her abilities to cook. It had everything to do with her just human makeup, who she is. Right. And that's what we look for.
Yeah, that's incredible. And when you first started, where did you start to source some of these applicants, right? So you mentioned that you had had an interview process, you had criteria that you set, conversations, kind of do that pulse check.
You're gonna laugh, man. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's a gentleman in St. Louis, Missouri that wants to come work for me right now. And he lives like 6 hours away. And I keep telling him, well, come down for a weekend and hang out with us and let's talk. But it's today's world, man. We talk about legacy media a lot in my circle, and the newspaper ads and the yellow pages and the Craigslist and things along those lines are just they're not around anymore. You just don't use those things. And people want to work for people. They want to work for people that are real and wake up on the wrong side of the bed and wake up on the right side of the bed, and we'll bring them donuts or try to work through a problem or whatever it is. People don't care about making the most money. They don't care about getting the most hours. They want what they want. It's one of my favorite interview questions is well, how much money do you need to make every week? I'm not asking you what your hourly wage is. I'm not asking you what your availability is. I'm not asking you, how many hours a week you want to work. I want to know, do you need to make $300 a week? Okay, great. Well, if I can give you $300 a week and provide you a work environment that you enjoy, that you're learning something, would you want to come work for me? Yes. Okay, great. Well, then I'll give you $10 an hour for 30 hours a week. How's that sound? Ooh, no. I don't want to do that. Oh, but that's not what we just talked about. So if that's not what you want, then tell me what you want. Oh, I need $500 a week. Okay, great. All right. So if I give you, $15 an hour for 40 hours a week, then you get whatever the numbers are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we came to now we start putting things into real terms, like a real conversation, because I'm going to be as real with you as I possibly can be. I'm not an a-hole. I don't beat you up and down. I don't yell and scream at you, but I do tell you what I expect. And if I tell you what I expect and it's not what you want, then something's amiss, right? So if we're on the wrong, if we're not on the right page from the start, then we're never going to be on the right page.
Right. Yeah, because what's interesting about your story too is that you're evolving the company very quickly from a true zero just 2-3 years ago, right? And it's really remarkable. And we talk a lot on this podcast about defining culture, core pillars of your organization. And usually groups kind of have like writings on the wall where it's like integrity and kindness and serving. And you kind of had to start from scratch, develop those things kind of in the trenches. And I'm curious now, based on your state, because you are in that scale phase, have you taken the time to like write that down and institute it in like a policy, or is it more fluid how the organization runs and just innate kind of in the background? Where are you on that spectrum?
So I have a mission. Okay. One thing I learned at a young age, and maybe it was the military, maybe it was my father or my grandfather or somebody, I'm not sure. But if you don't know what your North Star is, if you don't know what your purpose is, it doesn't matter about any of the other crap, right? Like it just doesn't matter. If your goal is to buy a house and you don't know how much money you need, then it just doesn't matter. You're not going to ever get there because you don't know how much money you need. So for us, I had to start with a mission statement, and the mission is real simple, and that's to become the Nike of barbecue. I want when you see that logo, you know what it is, you know who it is, you know what it's about, you know that we're going to leave a lasting, meaningful impact in the community that we're in, and you know we're here to help you, and we're going to do that by helping build and grow the community through undeniable hospitality, storytelling, and the perfect plate of barbecue. And it's so easy for me to tell my team what their mission is every day with that statement, right? Hey, we're going to be the Nike of barbecue. So if they're not nice to another team member, well, is that undeniable hospitality? No, it's not. Okay, well then why did we go that route? That's not what we want to do. Hey, does that barbecue burrito look the way it's supposed to? Are those nachos built the way they're supposed to be? No. Well, is that the perfect plate of barbecue? No. Okay, well then why do we not do that? So you can, with that mission statement, that's our North Star. That's where we're going. So it's real easy for us to decide and decipher how we move forward and how we grow as a brand. I every single team member I have in my dining room or in my restaurant right now, it's real simple. I have one job, and that's to make them a whole pot full of money. If I'm making them a whole bunch of money, man, the world is a good place. Right. Because if they're making a ton of money, I'm probably doing all right.
It's an interesting way to think of it, right? And it makes me think about what's my North Star, right? And what are the things that my companies and my life that I'm chasing towards? And I don't know if you ever heard what Nike's vision statement, not mission statement is, but it's crush Adidas, right? Like very simple, right? Like, are the things that we doing today here at Nike, from producing shoes to dealing with customers, better than Adidas, right? Yeah. And it also makes me think back to an inspirational quote I once heard from Michael Phelps, where he was talking about rivalries. Is like, if you need any inspiration in your life, find a rival, right? And it can bring you to so many different lengths, right? Keep you up at night, keep you early in the morning, things like that. Do you have a rival within the barbecue industry? I mean, it seems just from the outside so friendly. Everybody's kumbaya, sharing recipes.
Yeah, we are.
All that.
Yeah,
What's out there?
So for me, I'm a very unique individual, man. I wake up every morning and my number one rival is myself.
Mm.
I never feel like I'm working hard enough. Even though I work an average of 120 hours a week, 7 days a week, I never stop. I never get off my phone. I don't stop doing podcasts or interviews or the news or coming up with a new recipe or trying to help teach and coach somebody. Right. So I'm always doing something. Um, I, I, I have found that if I continuously try to beat myself and get better than I was yesterday, then I'm going to be better. This company may not be successful, but I will know without an unequivocal doubt that I gave it everything I had. And if you truly give it 110% and leave nothing on the field, it's hard to be beaten, right? It's hard to beat the guy that never quits. And one of the things that I learned when I was in the Army, I was the shortest guy in my platoon. And
How
my
short
drill
are you?
sergeant always put me as number one in the march, and I never understood why he put me as number one in the march. Well, he was 6'3", I'm 5'7". So he put me as number one in the march because there's no way that if I was number one in the march and I had to keep up with him that I could ever fall behind.
Mm.
And it was all just a mental game. That my legs are long enough and I can move fast enough and I'm in good enough shape. I have to get past my own mental to get to that level. And after 17 weeks, I finally believed it. I had never ran a mile in my life before the military that was under 7 minutes. When I graduated basic training, I ran a 7-minute or 6-minute and 21-second mile. And which was just absolutely blistering speed for me. I thought, oh my goodness, this is insane. Once I got to my first duty station, I ran a sub 6-minute mile, which is even crazier for me, right? But it was all mental. Physically, I was in shape. Physically, I could do it, but mentally, I wasn't allowing myself to. And it's the same thing here at the restaurant and in business. If you allow yourself to not, if you think you can be defeated, you will be. Right. That's just the way it works. And if I'm humble enough to look in the mirror at night and go, I screwed that up today. I need to go back and fix that. And I'm not the best with people. I'm not the worst, but I try to have an open enough mind to be able to have open conversations and say, okay, hey, here's where we're at. This is what we need to do. What do you think? And I may not agree with you. I might disagree with you, but I'm going to go home and sleep on it. And then the next morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to look in the mirror and go, Charlie, you screwed that one up. You need to fix it.
Yeah. So what is next for you? What's next for the brand? I mean, it seems like you're in good scale mode. You're clearly working very hard, building the team, kind of building out all that stuff. What's the next couple of years look like for you?
Man, I try to keep things in front of me pretty tight. We definitely want to grow into more units without a question. But it's not I don't have a plan of, hey, every year for the next 5 years, we're going to put in a new restaurant. Here's the sites they're going to be. This is the plan. I don't operate that way. I look more into, hey, here's something that is possible. This is an area that we can look into. Like right now, I'm in the process of putting in a concession stand in another location. We're signing the final details of that in the next week or two. So that'll be open here in the next couple months. So that's really kind of taken a lot of my precious time. I should know in the next 2 weeks probably about whether or not we're going to have our sauce in 58 Publix.
Nice.
So that's a big one. And then all that takes people, right? I got, I'm trying to expand my catering team and my marketing team. Right now, I got one person on the catering team and nobody on the marketing team except for myself. So trying to broaden that horizon a little bit. It takes money to make money, and you got to spend it on the right things. And I need to get myself out of the operation a little bit. I do it because I love it.
Yeah.
I like being here. I like being in the restaurant. I like getting my hands dirty with it. But, at the same time, I gotta work on the business, not in it. Right. So, we're getting there. We take the opportunities as they come. I'm not trying to plan anything out. Nobody's come to me with a huge capital investment yet to start getting that granular in details for capital. So we'll take it as it comes.
Love it. All right. Well, we usually keep it around 20 minutes for the podcast.
Awesome.
For us, I ask the same exact question at the end of every single podcast, and we've gotten in the past inspirational question or answers. We've gotten funny answers and just about everything in between. What was your first hourly job ever? And were you let go from that job or did you quit?
So my first hourly job ever was actually at a golf course. It's how I got in the restaurant business. And I picked up the golf balls on the range and cleaned all the carts, and I thought I was going to be the next Tiger Woods, but now I run restaurants. So, but it was a summer job, so I wouldn't say that I necessarily quit. I went back every summer and worked there, but until I graduated high school, or until my senior year in high school, that was my first full-time job. But yeah, I was.
Where was that in the country?
In Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. The golf course is no longer there. So.
Oh, really? Were you one of those people that you'd run through and people would try to hit you in the driving range?
Yeah. That was me. That was me. I'd do that, and we'd clean up the carts, and I actually went into the pro shop. I got done with everything, didn't have anything to do, and I went into the restaurant side of the pro shop, and the manager of the restaurant was just getting kicked in the dirt. He was buried in the weeds, and I said, "Hey man, you need any help?" And he said, "Man, if you could wash some dishes, that would be great." And so I ran back and washed all the dishes and came out 5 minutes later and said, "Hey, what else you need?" And he goes, "You got all the dishes done?" I said, "Yeah, man, it's all done." And he goes, "Hey, just do whatever." So, I started busting tables and refilling drinks, and it's kind of where I fell in love with the restaurant business. So it's without that job, I don't know if I'd be sitting here today. Probably still be in the Army.
That's incredible, man. Well, Charlie, if somebody is listening to the podcast, wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? And what do you love connecting with people over?
Anything business, anything restaurant, hospitality oriented. I love talking about it. Anything I can do to help, even if it's just to bounce an idea off of. Kind of like Coach Prime, I'm pretty easy to find. All social medias are at Single Tree BBQ. My website is singletreebbq.com. My phone number is 615-307-0120. And my email is charlie@singletreebbq.com. So, real simple. Give me a call, give me a text, email, smoke signal, whatever. I'm around.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.